Hello and welcome on Parrot TV. This is the Politics, and I'm your host, Sainabou. Thank you so much for joining us here every Friday at 12 p.m. We are welcoming you. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube, check us out on Instagram, and stay tuned on our Facebook. Thank you so much. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about New York City elections and the game so far. And we have Mr. Anthony with us and Mr. Robert Press with us today. Guys, please give us a brief introduction to our audience just so that we know who you are. Mr. Anthony, we start with you.
Good morning. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Sorry, it looks like we're having a little. Can you hear me now, Bert?
Yes, can you hear
Yes,
me?
I was just asking, can you please give us a brief introduction?
My name is Anthony Rivieccio. Thank you for having me on your show. I've been on your show before. As I said the first time, I like to tell people I have three lives. My first dominant life is I am an income tax and financial. My second life is I run a small organization called and the third, which I'll be doing after we get done today, is I also am a college professor at Rivieccio.
All right, and Mr.
And I still can't hear you.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me much better now? I'm sorry, we had like a little loud noise in the background. Yes, clearly. All right, there we go. Mr. Robert Press, can you please give us a brief introduction of yourself?
Okay. Well, what can I say? I've been in politics a long time, going back to the Lindsay years. Now in the Bronx, I've been a reporter for almost 15 years. My biggest highlight, and you could see my Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez pin. This is the original one from 2018 when I moderated the debate between her and Congressman Crowley Stand-in, which basically turned the campaign around and helped AOC win that election. Because if you notice in the film where I have about 3 minutes, don't say anything, Anthony. At the ending, when she goes into her celebration, she thinks she did a great job, but winds up winning it. And she is so surprised. Okay, so that is one of my, and I'm very good at predicting elections.
To that, we're going to actually get into that. Actually, let's just dive right into it. You're really good at predicting elections, but this time it looked like you predicted wrong, and Mr. Anthony right there got one upon you. So, as somebody who's a novice into politics, and as you're saying you've been there for a long time, where did you go wrong this year?
Well, Eric Dinowitz was perfect, I said, because it goes back to school board politics. I was in the last ranked choice voting election. It was school board politics. And the person on the top was the winner, basically, in that election district. In school board elections, the person on top was rotated from one election district to the next election district. I was on top of an election district at the southernmost part of the school board, where nobody knew me, but I got 5 votes because I was on the top of the ballot. Then, when it drops down. That's exactly what happened. John Sanchez in the 15th was not as good a candidate as Mr. Felix was, or candidate Bravo. The three of them went into the final round, and thinking that one district manager would go to the other, I forgot what I originally said of the drop-down vote from the top to the second person, which Mr. Feliz was second under John Sanchez, who was on the top.
I'll be glad to remind you.
I'm not saying that's how he won. He was a good candidate. And, so I was not backing any candidate like Mr. Rivieccio, who had 3 candidates. So he had a 1 out of 3 choice.
Mr. Rivieccio, sounds like you had something to say there.
No. It's just, I wish that, I always love being on your show, and I don't consider myself an expert, although, of course, I've been involved in many political organizations in the last 2 decades. I always have problems appearing on your show when you have what I call spin masters. So I feel like I have to spend like half the show correcting. So Mr. Press could only be right in the early part of his statement, which is in the school board elections that he references, which was over 20-something years ago. I'm sure it happened exactly as he indicated. However, that's not how the 15th Council District went. We'll go more into that in a few minutes. And just to quote Mr. Press, he was quoted as of Monday when the original election night numbers were already in. And of course, they were going through the ranked choice process. And when he was asked several times since Monday, his odds at that time was that he said Oswald had a 20-to-1 shot to win. He also indicated that Mr. John Sanchez had a 3-to-1 shot of winning. And he also indicated that Aisha Bravo had a 2-out-of-1 shot in winning. So as we know, that was his quote. And as we now know, he was incorrect.
Well, let me just answer Anthony's statement because it was a horse race. And let me just say that Mr. Rivieccio mentioned monkey wrenches. And this was one of those monkey wrenches where Mr. Sanchez was on top of all the ballots. And his drop-down vote went to Oswald Feliz when he went out. I thought the district managers would get one to the other because they were then, at that time, supporting each other. But obviously, my original statement that the drop-down vote, that came in. All right, we often make mistakes. All right, and that was a mistake where I felt that one district manager would go to the other rather than dropping down. It happens.
As I indicated to Mr. Press, as I indicated,
what made Mr. Philly so different though for this election, Mr. Anthony?
No, Mr. Press is actually somewhat correct. As I indicated to Mr. Press and anyone that has asked me, the original election night numbers from the election night that night, you can call it a character race. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to vote for your candidate, right? Whoever that is, male, female, right? But once those votes are in, then when you talk about ranked choice voting, it's not about, as I said to Mr. Press, it's not about character anymore because now the numbers are in. Now it's a matter of simple math. So on election night, if you take the top 3 candidates, and I think we all agree that the top 3 candidates were Mr. Feliz, Mr. Sanchez, and Ms. Bravo. If you just took those 3 on election night numbers, not the whole numbers, just the election night numbers, Oswald received 40% of the vote. Aisha Bravo received 31% of the vote. And John Sanchez received 29% of the vote. Now, as we found out later on, when you took the ranked choice votes, well, that actually added 33% more into the equation. I apologize for sounding like a mathematician. I'm a professor of personal finance at Lehman, and being a financial advisor, I work on math. So, when you take now that new 1/3 coming in, at the end of round 9, so election night was basically round 1, right? Or pre-round 1, right? When we get to round 9, which was the round before the end of the race, now we see Oswald coming in at 38%. We see Ms. Bravo coming in at 32%. And we also see Mr. Sanchez coming in at 30%. So now that brings us to Mr. Feliz and Ms. Bravo. The last round, where Mr. Press was absolutely correct. I'm glad to see him do that. He did some homework. Because 2/3 of Mr. Sanchez votes, or second place votes, I should say, went to Mr. Oswald Feliz. So believe it or not, from round 1 to round 9, I have to say Mr. Press was absolutely correct. Because Mr. Sanchez, from round 1 to round 9, got 36% of the vote. Ms. Bravo got 35% of the vote. And Mr. Feliz got 31% of the vote. So on election night, with that 40 to 31 lead that he had, all the way to ranked choice voting, yes, Ms. Bravo had a slight curve up, not big. And as I said on election night, that margin was just mathematically too big to overcome, even with that 1/3 that came in.
Well,
I hope that was understandable.
You're forgetting one thing, though, Mr. Rivieccio. How many votes were exhausted?
What is that, sir?
How many votes were exhausted?
I was about to I was about to point that one out. I was like, there's a lot of votes that I did see that were also exhausted and put aside. So how does that go into the equation?
848 votes became exhausted, which meant that those people didn't vote for any one of those three candidates. Okay. Mr. Feliz originally had 28%, Ms. Bravo 22%, and Mr. Sanchez 21%. Through smoke and mirrors of ranked choice voting, that's how Oswald Feliz got 55% or 56%, and Ms. Bravo wound up with 40 with the rest. Okay, and there's no accounting of the 848.
It came to my attention. It came to my attention that you were there covering the actual counting of the ranked choice voting.
The first 2 days. The first 2 days.
Did you see any smoke and mirrors?
What's that?
Did you see any smoke and mirrors? You said there was smoke and mirrors.
Of course I did. Of course. I was
trying
to.
Oh,
so you plan on giving us. So wait. So then you plan on giving us an exclusive right now on the smoke and mirrors that you saw?
No, Mr. Rivieccio. I am writing a complete report from day one of this special election when there was early voting and the problems that I had in these poll sites where the coordinators came over or technicians.
Well, we're not talking about the problems you have with your poll sites. We're talking about the smoke and mirrors that made Mr. Dillon swing.
Well,
we're not talking about the problems you have with the poll sites.
Okay, it continued into the poll site when I went in to sign in, and my media credentials were challenged. Okay, I was the only one.
I know, 3 times. 3 times.
No, I'm talking at the Board of Elections for the also for when I walked into for the counting. Okay, I was harassed by one of the Board of Election people.
Now I'm really confused. Did your media pass full of smoke and mirrors? I was asking about the smoke and mirrors that you saw
getting to it
during the election count.
I'm getting to it.
Gentlemen, let's give each other a chance to actually hear each other out, please. Thank you.
So that media credential, thank you. That media credential allowed me to take pictures at the poll site. Okay, when they went in for early voting, for voting day, and at the count. I started taking pictures. All of a sudden, the Board of Elections deputy director of the Bronx Board of Elections said, "You can't take pictures." And I said, "Yes, I can. It says here." "Well, you shouldn't take pictures of my employees," because I was taking pictures of, I'm not allowed to take pictures of open ballots. I know that. But I was taking pictures of a folders with that covered the ballot.
Where did the smoke and mirrors come from? You just said you didn't see the ballots.
Can I finish?
Where did the smoke and mirrors come from?
Can I finish? Okay.
As long as you can show us the smoke and mirrors, sure.
Can I finish? So
yeah, forgive me, host. I'm going to need to smoke one of these because there's too much smoke and mirrors.
Tony, the day after the count was finished, and New York One is doing a story on it, I see that their camera is behind these people taking the vote, counting the votes. Now, how can their people be behind the people counting the votes, and I can't stand on the other side and take pictures of tally sheets? I have pictures that I'm going to send to Mike Ryan where it shows ballots open and exposed.
This is called smoke and mirrors. That's what this is called, smoke and mirrors. Could you please indicate? You said 5 minutes ago, I believe it was 5 minutes ago, that Oswald Felix won because.
Oh no, I'm not saying that he
were
did
at
not
the
win
Board of Elections, so I'm sure you must have seen them. Could you please share some of that with us?
I am not saying that Mr. Feliz did not win honestly. Okay, he proved that he could win.
Smoke and mirrors.
I'm just saying that.
But that goes against what you're saying, though, Mr. Press. I think that's what Mr. Anthony is saying. if you're saying that Mr. Phillies won rightfully so, you can't go and talk about him, go about in the ballot rooms and speak on how there might have been an activity that shouldn't have happened and calling it smoke and mirrors. So that's what he's getting at. Exactly what you
I'm just going to expose the Board of Elections and their coordinators for what they did in a letter to Mike Ryan. Okay, that's going to take about 2 days to make up.
Besides questioning your credentials, what did they do?
What did they do? Well,
yeah, besides questioning your credentials, what did they do?
They didn't allow me to be at certain places. They didn't allow me to take
Besides questioning your credentials, what did they do that created these smoke and mirrors?
Because I am allowed to take pictures, and I was not allowed. New York won.
All right. Oh my God, where's the liquor? All right, go ahead.
Let's move on to the 11th Council District, though. Okay, how about that?
Okay, Mr. Press, I was actually going to ask you about that. What is the power that the media has on politics? And is it right that media has so much power and hold in politics? Because media does sway the way that people think. It sways the vote. So what is the strength of media in politics?
Well, we saw that in the presidential election, how the media was behind one candidate and going against another candidate. Basically, only one or two networks was behind that second candidate. And that was why he lost. All this media attention for one person. In these two races, there was no media attention, really. Only myself and maybe one or two other local newspapers did anything. But that showed in a low number of votes in the 15th Council District, under 4,000. When we moved to the 11th Council District, you have almost 10,000 votes cast. And let me just say one thing. In the 1999 school board election, just for the Riverdale area alone, where there was over 10,000 votes cast. And in the entire school board district, which includes the 15th district, there were 15,000 votes cast. So there were more votes cast in the last school board election in 1999 than in these two council races, which cover the school board area. Okay. Now, in the 11th Council District, I said that Eric Dinowitz would win, maybe even on the first round. He came in with 48%, very close to being declared the winner on the first round. Now, where did your candidate, Mr. Rivieccio, come in? What was it, Dan Paternek? How did he do?
Dan Paternek came in with approximately 15%.
What? I didn't hear you.
I said Mr. Dan Paternek came in fourth with approximately 15%.
Which went down once the ranked choice voting came in.
It could have been.
And it was my prediction that if it goes in, that Mr. Patenek's votes would give Eric Dinowitz the winning percentage, correct? And that's what happened, correct?
Yeah, but a 10-year-old kid knew that. I mean, the numbers showed that half of Dan Patenek's second choice numbers went to Eric Dinowitz. And of course, I congratulate Eric Dinowitz, but anybody knew that.
Now, let's go to the primary day coming up.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, Mr. Anthony. We're having a little static close to your mic. If there's anything in front of it, do you mind moving it away? It's creating a lot of static when you talk. Thank you.
I don't have anything in front. Is that a little better?
Yes, much. Thank you. Go ahead.
We have primary day coming up, okay? I have here my predictions for Bronx Borough President and the council races, but I'd like to hear Mr. Riviecchio's first, because mine will be up right after this show, because it's, I was in the middle of it, but, to be on the show, I had to stop. So I know what I think.
Well, to answer Mr. Press's.
Who do you think?
Well, to answer Mr. Press's question, I should say first and foremost, our organization, Northwest Bronx Democrats, has already endorsed the birthday boy, actually, Mr. Fernando Rivera. Today is his birthday. So we automatically presume he will be number one. Now, if you add in the right choice voting and all that kind of stuff, and I do believe it's going to be a very tough race, but I also do believe that there are two great women candidates that will offset a lot of that vote. And those ranked choice voting things can go any which way but lose to them.
Mr. Anthony, can you please touch on, because I was going to ask you that, can you please touch on some of the difficulties they might face as well? as part of your response. Thank you.
Could you say that again?
No, can you kind of get on, like, basically just speak more on the struggles that they will start to face in this June 22nd elections?
Nessence, who do you think is
I'm not getting.
Who do you think is going to win the borough president's race and why?
I think. Was that your question?
Yep.
Yeah.
Who's going to win the borough president?
No, I'm asking her. Was that your question?
I'm asking about, basically you said that it's going to be very difficult for them within the next couple of weeks. And so that's why I was asking. I'm like, what are some of these difficulties they will be facing during this June 22nd? The primary, basically.
When you say difficulties, I'm not specifically sure what you're referencing, whether it's issues, policy. In regards to the next 30 days, I think Mr. Cabrera is going to do what he's been doing, which is two things. Number one, traveling to every area in the Bronx. And number two, as he's always done, he's always been a great listener. He'll be the first to tell you he doesn't solve all the problems. He'll be the first to tell you he doesn't know what all the problems are, right? We have 61 neighborhoods and everyone has its own little different flavor. So I have found him over the years to be a great listener. And I think that will propel him very much so in this one.
And
Anthony,
now we can get into Robert Press's question. That's actually one of my question points. So, Mr. Press, do you mind repeating that for us?
Who do you think is going to win the Bronx Borough President race and why?
I thought I just answered it.
I thought you were talking about the mayor's race.
No, unless Fernando Cabrera is running for mayor. That could be a question 4 to 8 years down the road.
So you think Fernando Cabrera is going to win? Why?
I just told you why.
I believe he said because of his skills in communication and continue what he's been doing. I did hear part of his response for that one.
Unlike others.
Unlike the others. What about you, Mr. Press? Who do you believe would be winning?
About a month ago, I was asked by a person from the Bronx Democratic County Organization, what do I think of Vanessa Gibson's chance of winning? I said, I don't believe Vanessa Gibson has any chance of winning because there are 6 candidates at the time. Now there are 5 because Mr. Gutierrez was eliminated. He's not on the ballot. There were only 5 on the ballot. I said, Ms. Gibson will not get any drop down votes really because she's running against 5 Hispanics at the time. Now it's 4 Hispanics. And the votes will drop down accordingly. If there was a black candidate, another black candidate in, those votes would drop down to her if it was a weaker candidate. Mr. Cabrera will win, A, because he's on the top of the ballot, B, because Ms. Gibson is on the bottom of the ballot. And as I said, in school board races, people will be voting from the top down. That's what gives her now a very big disadvantage. And again, the 3 candidates in the middle are all Hispanic. And should Councilman Cabrera not win on the first round, they will drop down to him. As a matter of fact, the words that I said to Assemblywoman Fernandez when she entered the race, I interviewed her. I said, you were only going to be a drop-down candidate for Louis Sepulveda, who was at the time, it was Louis Sepulveda and Councilman Salamanca, who were the 2 top people. Councilman Salamanca dropped out, and we saw what happened with Senator Sepulveda, unfortunately. All right, but so that made Councilman Cabrera the best choice, or I should say, people have said the lesser of the evils, but it's the best choice. All right. Councilman Cabrera is doing everything he can to win. He's going to community organizations. I was with him last night at one. All right. And he is doing excellent. I believe he will make a great borough president.
Okay. All right. The predictions that you're sticking with?
I'm saying Cabrera. And again, he may win it on the first round. If he doesn't, he will be a winner with about 65%.
Okay. So before we just head out, I did want to ask you guys, what makes you so confident in your predictions? And we can start with you, Mr. Press, so then we can get Mr. Anthony and have our farewells. Thank you.
Okay. We are in the council races. 4 years ago, one of the big races was the 13th council race. My prediction was Mark Jonah would win. And I even put he'd win with 38%. What happened? Mark Jonai won, and he won with 38%. To this date, he still wants to know how I knew what he was going to get. Okay. Like I said, in the council races, all right, in the 11th council race, Dinowitz should win easy. The 12th council race is going to be a little interesting because the two women are 1 and 2, and Mr. Riley, the incumbent, is number 3. So the county organization is going to have to put a lot of troops up in the 12th to help Mr. Riley, because there is a possibility that they could lose, but I think he will win. In the 13th, it's going to be an open battle because since the incumbent is not there, and he's backing the person who is the number 1 candidate, but that person is a very weak candidate. There were actually only 2 real candidates, Miss Marjorie Velazquez Lynch, and I say Lynch because that's her real name. Not her husband is Jeff Lynch, who works for the mayor of New York, and the other candidate is John Perez, who is a 18-year Army veteran who is very well decorated. So those are the 2 main candidates, and the votes from the other 3 candidates, Monique Johnson, Irene Estrada, and Marilyn Soto, should be dropping down to either one of those. But right now, there seems to be problems with 2 of the candidates and Ms. Velazquez Lynch. So those votes from those candidates could drop down to Mr. Perez, or should drop down the way things are going. In the 14th, I can't give you a prediction. I like Yudeka Tapia. She was my PA president when I was president of School District 10's President's Council. I have a long history of parent leadership all the way up to the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council. So I can't give you an answer for the 14th because I'm skewed on that. In the 15th,
okay,
I believe she asked you, Mr. Press, how were you so sure about your predictions? So let me ask her, because I don't believe she asked you about all the city council.
No, that was actually the question. That was actually the question. We're running out of time. I wanted that to be known so that people know what they're voting for and who are they speaking about. And like you said, media has a lot of influence. And right now we are the media and we are the influence. So what we say really does matter. And I just wanted to tap into that. Why are you so confident in your predictions? And if you can give us that within a minute and a half, I would really appreciate that so that I can give you the answer.
I'll be very glad to. I'll be very glad, and I can be very simple.
And we can just wrap it up before we
whereas Mr. Press says the inside joke is gets his analysis from his crystal ball, I get my personal analysis from being on the ground for 20 years. Our organization has worked in many districts, including some of the ones that just took place over the course of the last 20 years in many, many different types of capacities, and being on the ground is the best place to be. As Mr. Press said earlier, and he's absolutely correct, Mr. Ocasio won that race. What he does not tell you, however, is all of the behind the scenes on the ground work, like the movie shows, that got Ms. Ocasio to be propelled. Mr. Press interviewing an empty chair might have helped half of 1%. But being on the ground, of course, you what the people want. The media helps as well. And also can screw it.
I'll just answer Mr. Rivieccio by saying that Mr. Rivieccio is a paid worker for candidates. I am a media person, so I do not get paid by candidates. All right. I am supposed to be impartial, as I have been in all the elections where I've been. All right. At the end, towards the end, maybe the last day or two, I may become partial to a candidate because that's when the election comes. And I may, once in a while, work for a candidate on election day because I want that candidate to win. And again, this is how the media can do it. But all my predictions are already in, all my statements are already in, and I could do like many other people. All right, there is a promoter right now. There is a woman who is doing very great work, who has hosted forums, and she's done a great job. But, again, in election time, it's, you have to be fair because I ran in 1996 against Jeffrey Dinowitz on the Independence line, and BronxNet TV was having a debate. And they said to me, we want just the Democrat and the Republican. So I said to the head of Lehman College, where this public television station was. You have a public television station getting public money, and they want to keep candidates out.
Let me
Half
help.
hour later,
Mr. Press, unfortunately, we do not have enough time. I do apologize for getting you off like that, but we do not. And I just wanted to get a quick goodbye to our audience. Thank you so much all for joining us. We don't have time today. Well, definitely we'll bring both together again. This was absolutely tremendous fun time we all had. Please don't forget to subscribe.